My mom's name is Galena, and she had a best friend named Galena.
Oh.
Figure that. They met in Odessa. I think they were about 18 years old. Right around that time. I may have my facts not exactly correct, but they were young ladies, and they became, throughout life, they became the best of friends. You see my mom, Galena Segal, and to her left is Galena Turin, and she now lives in New Jersey, and with her husband William and their daughter Irina. That's their family photo with my mom, and they were tight forever. I mean, really close friends. And Galena Turin is it's very hard for her right now to have lost my mom. But I told Galena Turin, you know, now that my mom, Galena Segal, is not physically here, I'm going to adopt you as my mom.
Oh.
So Galena Turin is my new mom.
Yeah.
And it makes it even easier that she's also named Galena. We don't only have to change that. So I just say, Galena. Well, of course, I'm going to call her Mom. Born October 16, 1935 in Odessa, her parents were Lev Segal and Maria Sharkansky. She had an older sister, Zoya. Her father was arrested in 1937 and murdered as a political prisoner by the KGB during Stalin's repression. Her mother, a pianist, had to support her family with two little daughters until she married Lev Kulik, also a pianist and famed music teacher, who adopted the children. The girls received an outstanding musical education, were also fluent in 3 languages, Russian, Ukrainian, and French. During World War II, the family evacuated to the Asian part of Russia. After the war, the family returned to Odessa, where they lived in a small room in an apartment with 2 other families. Half of the room was taken by a grand piano that was used by the parents for teaching during the day. At night, the piano was used as a bunk bed for the girls. Zoya slept on top and Galena slept under the piano. Both girls went to public school and continued their piano lessons at home, but they dreamed of being violinists and asked their parents to find a good teacher. However, the parents refused because they couldn't afford to pay for their violin lessons. The sisters were very upset and refused to continue playing piano. Galena loved sports. She was a good swimmer and sharpshooter despite of being nearsighted. She won many awards and trophies in these sports. In school, she was an outstanding student. As an example, her Russian literature teacher dictated her a sentence from War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy and asked her to insert proper punctuation, which was quite complex. She was amazed when Galena, after some hesitation, put exactly the same punctuation symbols as did Tolstoy. Her compositions were often read in class as exemplary writing. Being a good mathematician in high school, she sent her application to the Odessa State University in 1953. However, she was not accepted by the university because she was Jewish. This is when we met, because my fate was the same. We became friends by virtue of our common interests in almost everything: music, literature, mathematics. And we both were Jewish in an anti-Semitic Soviet Union. However, we were able to become extramural students of the same university and graduated as mathematicians in 1959. We became friends for life. We studied together, went to movies, theaters, concerts, and simply enjoyed being together. Galena was very selective in choosing friends. But once becoming a friend, she was a devoted friend for life. When my daughter was born, she helped me immensely with her care. She loved her as if she were her own child. Galena had a lot of friends and was always open to help them. She enjoyed doing good things for people. Every time I met with her, I was astounded by her talents and her wide scope of interests. Anything she put her hands on turned to gold. Her masterpieces were created on a professional level. She achieved a high level of mastery in everything she did. The strength of her spirit was tremendous. She has achieved so much in her life, and so much was lost when she left. Galena began to write a novel about her difficult life, wartime childhood, her school years. I anxiously awaited for her to send me new chapters of her novel, but she was very modest and did not want to send me unfinished work. Unfortunately, time took its toll. When she developed cancer, Galena fought for her life with all her strength and courage. Jean supported her to her last breath as a loving and devoted son. but the disease was stronger. Galena left us, and she left behind an unfinished novel, a grieving son, and took with her vast knowledge and memories. There was so much more I wanted to ask her, but there was no time. Her passing left much pain in our hearts. My husband and I lost a very close, kind, and warm friend. The memory of Galena will always live in our hearts. Next, I would like to read a statement by Elena Leontieva. This is a young lady who both my mom and I are very good friends with. She was at one time my girlfriend, and we both realized that we're much better as friends, and our friendship to date keeps getting stronger and stronger. And part of that reason is that Elena and my mom became good friends. And so I consider Elena as part of my family. She's like a sister. Elena sent her statement in Russian, and I translated it into English. I remember that sunny autumn day when we first met and have since become close friends. Galena called me my girl, and she became my second mom, who always supported me, gave me wise advice, and just accepted me for who I am. When I would visit Galena, we would talk for hours on end. She had a special joke and anecdote for every occasion. Wit was an integral part of my Galena. She was also very creative. Anything she got her hands on, be it a piece of wood, sheet of paper, or scrap of yarn or fabric, would turn into a work of art. She was also a fighter in life and always pursued her goals decisively. Hold to your principles, be yourself, and do not cheat yourself were the mottos of her life. We spent wonderful moments together. Talks, trips to stores, evening walks with her doggie, little adventures. Yet there's so much we didn't get to do. Galena will forever remain in my heart, and I believe that she is looking down at me from the heavens and sends me her kindness and gentle caring. I love you, my Galena. And I would also like to read my mom's last words to Elena as my mom lay at Cedars-Sinai, barely conscious, delirious. I myself was at that point not able to have a conversation with her. I mean, I would speak with her, and she would either not answer or answer with one words. What one-word answers. And when Elena called from Tunisia, and I held the phone to my mom's ear, my mom pronounced this to her, and this was the last continuous, coherent statement that my mom made in her life, aside from very short responses to me as she would after I brought her home to my house from the hospital. And this is when Elena said, "I'm sorry I couldn't come to see you," because she couldn't get a visa to the United States in time. So my mom said, "My dear girl, I say farewell to you. My time has come. Do not cry. That's life. You and I had many happy moments together. You were a good daughter to me. I love you. Just don't cry. Your whole life is ahead of you. You and I will meet again. The main thing is be happy. You will forever remain in my heart. I love you, my girl. Farewell." Linda Gibson. You have her picture? Yes, she's obviously the young woman on the right. That's that's in the early '80s when Mom and I first came to Los Angeles, and Linda was the neighbor downstairs, and they became instant girlfriends. And Linda right now lives in Florida, so she couldn't come. I'll read her statement. Galena was the most influential person in my life. We found in each other the sister we each wished our own sisters could have been but weren't. I want to read that again. We found in each other the sisters we each wished our own sisters could have been but weren't. Independently, we each would say that the other was so reliable that if we called in the middle of the night and simply said, "I'm at this address, come now," and hang out. We were certain that the other would show up without a reason. We were this tight. I met her at a time when I really had no direction or purpose. She and Jean had just arrived to America, and Galena set an astounding example of a positive attitude and constructive time management without cognizance that I would be the benefactor. She was always working on something, never idle, weaving, woodworking, writing, even acting in the short story film. She was a natural. Although she overcame much in her life, she could see the humor in things, even when the outcome seemed grim. I remember her apartment ceiling was leaking in a heavy rain, much like what is going on out here now. Her landlord would not fix the roof or even admit that the roof was leaking. She asked me to come over and take pictures. By the time I got there, it had stopped raining, and she was frustrated as she had no proof of how bad it was. I took a spray bottle and sprayed where it had leaked so I could take pictures. We both started laughing because she would never have thought to do such a thing. And then she said in relief, "Thank God I laughed. Thank God I laughed." It had been so long since she had laughed that she appreciated any opportunity to do so. I used to be amused by some of the things she would discover and think were great, like fast food. Given that she had many memories of standing in long lines, it was easy to comprehend and rewarding to watch as Americans took these things for granted. A dedicated sister, in spite of past grievances, when Zoe became ill, Galena accepted responsibility for the care of her and was with her right up to the end. That deed prompts me to consider my own sister should the situation arise. She bestowed to me one of the greatest gifts by teaching me to read music and play the piano. It had been a lifelong desire of mine as a child. However, my mother didn't think it was important, and there was always a reason why I could not take lessons. When I discovered that Galena had a degree in music, I asked her if she would teach me. I could have not gotten a better teacher if Beethoven himself had taught me. However, the greatest gift from Galena are the memories I have with her and Jean. If there is a life after death, I can only hope to be blessed and look forward to a reunion with Galena on the other side. I love you, Galena, and pray to see you again. And lastly, I want to read a statement from Gertrude Rudiak, who I literally just got on my email, so I'll have to read it from my cell phone. And Gertrude and her deceased husband George were pivotal in my mom and I coming to this country. They helped us like nobody has ever helped us. And I'm really honored to have Arthur, son of Gertrude, join us today. I love Gertrude so much. I remember when we came in 1979, I first met her. I remember I had that image of her, and now it's 35 years later. She looks the same. She's 99 years old. She's just a spunky, sure she has a hip or something, but she's this, like, to me, it's the same Gertrude. And she, by the way, she was just awarded the key to the city of Las Vegas.
Wow. Amazing.
And I'm thinking, I want to go to Las Vegas and borrow that key and see what kind of things, what kind of safes that key can open. But joking aside, I will be going to Las Vegas to take this ceremony, this videotaped, and the slideshow, and some of the artwork, and we'll do the same service for the relatives in Las Vegas.
When are you going there?
I don't have an exact date right now, but possibly next week. Possibly next week. I'm also going to do a similar presentation in Leisure World. Now it's Laguna Woods Village, where my mom has many friends in the retirement community where she has lived for the past, since '89, 25 years. So this, what's happening here today, is going to be shared with my mom's many other friends in the retirement community and relatives in Las Vegas. In memory of Galena Segal by Gertrude Rudiak. In the 1960s and 70s, I worked with the Jewish National Fund. It had a program designed to find people who would sponsor Jewish families wanting to emigrate out of Soviet Russia. The program was a natural fit for me. After all, my parents and other family members had emigrated out of Russia into the United States in the early 1900s. So 60 years later, when my cousins Galena, her son Gene, and her sister Zoya found themselves struggling to get out, I wanted to do what I could to help. The reasons for both generations to flee the country were remarkably the same. In the days of my parents, the Tsar segregated the Jews into ghettos, called shtetls. Further, to scapegoat the many failures of the Tsarist regime, state-sponsored terrorism was sanctioned against the Jews that permitted the authorities and non-Jewish populations to attack the shtetls in murderous riots called pogroms. Galena, Gene, and Zoya wanted to escape the Russia in which they lived because it too was repressive, discriminatory, and bigoted. In this context, that somewhere around 1974 or 1975, George, my husband, and I were fortunate to be able to sponsor Galena, Gene, and Zoya out of Russia. Correction, it was 1977-78, into the United States. Gene was maybe 4 or 5 at the time. Correction, I was 8 or 9 at the time. But give her a break, she's 99 years old.
And you look pretty young.
Okay, hey, great, I just got shaved for about 5 years, so that means I'm only 20 now.
Of course.
In this context, while I can no longer recall the particulars of their exodus, it seems to me, and I may be wrong about this, that they traveled first through Italy, Vienna, before coming to the United States. Regardless of the route, the trip, I know, had been very hard and the money extremely tight. If I'm not mistaken, Galena later wrote a story about those challenging days, or perhaps the story was about those days prior to leaving Russia. I no longer remember which. Anyway, the story featured an apple core, which was basically all she had left over to eat on occasions. Having first seen to it that Gene got a semblance of a meal from the apple itself. That she remembered. It was a true story, and that was the kind of sacrificing motherly love that Galena had for Gene. After they arrived in the United States, Galena, Zoya, and Gene became, for us, far more than distant cousins who lived in a faraway land. They made frequent trips to Las Vegas, where I live, stayed in my home, and seldom, if ever, missed having both Thanksgiving and Passover dinners with the family. On every trip, Galena would bring something to eat. Items such as borscht, horseradish, and persimmons come quickly to mind. I believe she grew the horseradishes in a private garden, and I suspect she grew other small crop items as well. In later years, in addition to bringing fruits and vegetables, she also brought her little dog. When in Vegas, Galena acted as she was like one of the family, as she was. She helped to prepare the food, set the table, serve and clean up, all the while giving advice on matters of health, telling jokes, or relating family stories. If, during one of her visits, we took trips to the surrounding mountains, Galena would go with us. For many years she worked as a massage therapist. I know that Galena wrote extensively and had several of her works published. She would always give me copies to keep and read. Galena also had a hobby where she worked with wood. She was kind enough to give me several of her turned bowls. She also carved a sign for me that reads, Rudiak Pit Stop and Eatery. Established 1942, which is when Gertrude and George moved to Las Vegas. I keep the sign next to the barbecue in my den. Obviously, it represented the many meals we shared over the years. There's a rather well-known photograph we have in the family taken of my mother, who everyone called Nyanya. It was taken when she and I took a trip to Europe and Israel. We toured one day riding on top of some donkeys. I think we were in Greece at the time. Why we chose to ride the donkeys, I do not recall. Maybe it was the only means of transportation where we were. Anyway, the reason the photo is so well remembered is that Nyanya was well into her 70s at the time it was taken. Galena later translated that photo into a painting, which hangs in my front bedroom. Galena was genuine, straight-talking, and loving. She loved nature, learning, her family, her son, good food, good stories, bawdy jokes, Jewish jokes, and good companionship. The many challenges Galena had survived throughout her life gave her an inner toughness. Even so, she was truly a gentle, sensitive, and spiritual woman. Her good humor, company, and most of all, her weekly phone calls to say hello will be deeply missed. Love, Gertrude.